I'm Nils. I have the great pleasure of moderating this panel with Unitree and Persona AI, two humanoid robotics companies that have taken different approaches to humanoids, making different bets about what will make humanoids great, and have both made a big impression on the scene already. We'll be chatting together for about half an hour today. I'll try to cover all the questions that I anticipate you guys having. And to kick us off, I think the first thing that we want to know, Felix, how soon do you think it will be before we see humanoid robots doing work, real work?
Actually, the humanoid robot, if they will go to in the factory first thing. And now in China, some human robot is working at some factory, car factory, and do some easy job, and to replace some people. They will doing some job repetitive and dangerous, and also a dull job. Yeah, they will let some this job stage 2, and maybe 3 or 5 years. Human robot will go into the home and service more people.
One thing I often hear in the Chinese robotics community is that robots have a big potential to help with elder care, taking care of our parents when they're older. How does Unitree think about robots in the care sector? Do you think that robots will mainly take dangerous jobs and humans will take care of humans, or do you see robots also taking care of humans?
The first step, I think the human robot will replace people doing some dangerous job and repetitive job. The next stage, maybe 5 years, they will, with the development of AI, and the human robot will get more function and will more powerful. Then this human robot will serve more people and to do some service job, maybe in restaurant, maybe in hospital, maybe in aged care industry.
So we're seeing some humanoids put to work in factories already. What do you think is the timeline to see something like 1 million robots gainfully employed? When will we see a million robots working?
It's hard to say, And now the technology is not very advanced, and we need to step by step. Maybe 5 years, I'm not sure, but we are looking forward to this future.
Nicolaus, you have a slightly different view about where robots will do work first. Not necessarily the factories where we see a lot of robotic arms, things like this. You've already signed a couple of early customers. Where do you think humans will go first? What humanoids will go first? What kind of labor do you think humanoids are particularly well suited for?
Yeah, thanks Nils, and Felix, pleasure to be with you. It seems like I can't open up YouTube anymore and not see the coolest videos that Unitree is producing, so thanks for that, and it's awesome to be here. Yeah, as you mentioned, we have a slightly different view. It's really driven by where we think the strong economics are, and it's unclear how the economics are going to be situated for the home or other markets where the labor costs are not as strong. So at Persona, we decided to focus on the industry side and the industrials where the skilled trades are in extreme demand. And this isn't so much a cost-saving measure as it's uncovering backlog in a lot of these corporations. So we wanted to be obsessively commercial. So we took a view of the market and said, okay, where is there massive labor turnover? Where is there significant shortage? And what expresses the humanoid form the best when it comes to dexterity and dynamic locomotion? And so we decided that the heavy industry was likely to be a first mover market here. The antithesis of that, in my humble opinion, is the home, where I think the economics are unclear, the work is hyper unstructured. I'm not sure the consumer's ready for the third most expensive item in their portfolio, the house, the car, the humanoid. It doesn't pass the smell test yet. Those use cases are insanely complicated too. So we wanted to stick with the more semi-structured, where it's complicated, but it's achievable. And so we think welding, as we've been very vocal about recently in news, we signed an agreement with HD Hyundai for shipbuilding. And if you look at longer term, the industrials market have a labor participation rate decline, which is expected to be about 50% over the next 20 or so years. So getting back to your question on, when are we going to have 1 million humanoids deployed? Some of the marketing research out there says maybe as soon as 2030, with 10 million deployed by 2035. Now, I think those are pretty bullish upside cases, but it's the general sentiment, because you have this confluence of social aspects, technology tipping point, and the economy's, the economic side kicking in. For the first time, I've been in the humanoid development world for the last 25 years. I've got my career started at NASA, became an entrepreneur about 12 years ago, started a few companies in robotics, specifically around humanoids that go underwater and the like. And for the first time, what I'm witnessing is industrial companies raising their hand, saying, we can use this type of intelligent technology to help supplement our production. You contrast that to 15 years ago, you couldn't get a car company to put a logo on a video with a humanoid robot in there. It was taboo. So I'm really excited to see the social component to be coming around. But from Persona's aspect, we think the heavy industry is probably going to be one of the first mover markets that have the strongest use cases, the strongest economics, and the highest demand.
Where do you both think the potential bottlenecks are today? So we're still quite early in the hardware development, we're still quite early in the software development, but there's also a cultural aspect of this, right? Like, how ready are we to have humanoids working alongside us? Do we know what it means for insurance? All of these things. Where do you think the biggest bottlenecks are to see humanoids get deployed at scale over the next few years? Is it hardware, is it software, or culture?
The software and the hardware and the manufacturing always is challenging, and for the hardware and the power density and the actor precision and the system fusion, and how to scale up, all challenges, and also some culture and regulatory stuff. With this robot, I want to how to make a decision, how to handle some difficult tasks, how to suitable in the different environment. It all depends on the software. So I think the biggest bottleneck now is software. If we solve the software, the hardware will gradually develop.
How does Unitree approach getting ready on the software side? What is a big area of R&D for you over the next 2 years? What piece of software do you think will help robots the most in the near term?
For now, we just do some software to let this robot can do better, like can do some dynamic actions, like boxing, like some dancing, like Chinese groove. Yeah. This new basic function, we want to let this hardware more strong, and we also want to find the potential of the human robot. And in the future, we will excite this robot gradually, and we will step by step and to find more potential of the robot. But now I come to say, I just want to wait the future of the robot.
Where do you see the big bottlenecks being, Nick?
Well, from the performance side, I think we're getting very close. The hardware, which has been there for a little while, nothing earth-shattering has changed in the hardware performance aspects in the last 5 to 10 years. The software is moving at breakneck pace, so much so that we're struggling to intuit how quickly we are able to deploy. So there's a little bit of a gray area. Where I think the highest risk, honestly, on adoption of humanoids, it's going to be on the customer side. You need to consider, I think one should consider that when we put these machines into commercial capacities, Customers have zero tolerance for things that will increase their cycle time. If you think about it in the context of producing a car, automakers are shipping a car a minute, something on that order. They're going to have zero tolerance for humanoids if they do the task 16 seconds instead of 14 seconds. These things are ballet and scripted. So we, at the same time, need a customer base that understands the long game, has the vision to work through the messy middle of adoption, because it's going to be messy. Demos make really crappy businesses, and we have some excellent demonstrations of where we believe the state of the art is, but it is absolutely an open question, and it's unclear how that translates into real economic value for the entire ecosystem of customers which are going to support and drive the adoption of this. So I think the technology we can handle. There's a lot of open questions. Training for humanoids is an enormous problem. It's an expensive problem. It's very different than how the traditional LLMs are done now. You know, the last 50 years was the ubiquitous manipulation of the virtual world. We're conquering that, right? But the next 50 is going to be the ubiquitous manipulation of the physical world. Being able to move our environment around at will, on demand. It's going to take an entire new way of looking at how incorporating data, training the models, getting them distilled and deployed to produce action. And we're talking about multimodal aspects. So ensuring that we have the right customers as our first partners that understand the long game nature of this, in my view, will be a barrier. And if we get this part wrong, it could set the field back many years.
So if we don't have humanoid robots working at scale 10 years from now, where do you think we went wrong?
Besides like a meteor hitting the Earth?
Yeah.
It's a 10,000 piece puzzle, and hopefully we didn't drop a few of those pieces on the ground and you have a couple gaps in your big canvas where your Eiffel Tower you were building was. I think if we screw up, if we overhype the market, if we try to illustrate that we think things are a little too early, if we don't bring on the right partners, it will discourage the financiers, which are critical to funding the cash burn that will be required before these companies turn into material revenue and, dare I say, profitability, which I know is a weird word in the robotics community. But that's the game here, right? We're out to build successful businesses. We're entrepreneurs. We're not research institutes. The entire humanoid community is coming out of research. It's now stepping foot into commercialization. It's a completely different game. If you look at how the industrial robot is doing, it has been successful in very limited capacities. Pick and place, painting, welding, in hyper-structured environments where you can't even put people near them. We're now positing that we can put intelligent machines in the world around us, working shoulder to shoulder as we supplement the labor scarcity that we're having. So we're not going to be able to install humanoids in the same psychology that we did industrial robots. And so it's going to take a completely different view on how to socialize that with the buying side. Let's not forget, we need buyers. We don't need to write papers.
So today, Asia is the largest market for robots. In South Korea, every 10th worker in manufacturing is a robot today. Last year, more than half of all new industrial robots that were installed in China, and more than half of all industrial robots in existence are on Chinese soil today. The US is barely breaking top 10 in robot adoption, which to me seems to imply that it's not just technical challenges. There's a cultural element to this as well. Why do you think that the US has been more reticent to adopt robots at scale compared to Korea, Japan? Singapore is actually one of the most robot-dense countries in the world. What's keeping US adoption down?
Well, I don't think there's any coincidence that I'm sitting here in Singapore and that our first opportunity is in Korea. Singapore ranks number one of robots per deployed per 100,000 people, and Korea is number two. So as far as the US is concerned, that's a great question. And I think we're up against different challenges. Regulatory environments are slightly different. The manufacturing base and how it intertwines to the labor force is different. I have a lot of hope though, because speaking from somebody who's from Houston, Texas, and Houston is one of the largest manufacturers in the U.S. I think it's the second. It's got 6,000 individual manufacturers. It's the energy capital of the world. It's the largest medical center in the world. It has NASA's largest space centers in Houston. So it's a hyper-industrial city. So we're on the front line of seeing how customers are feeling this will be adopted. And we're seeing a lot of enthusiasm, absolutely. Again, back to my point on commercial uptake, there's no tolerance for it not working. And on the heavy industry side, we're going into industries that we have to be right, and it has to work, or they'll push it out the door and they'll keep doing what they're doing. The squeeze that's happening though is they can't even hire folks for these positions. If you look at some of the vacancies in the skilled trades, they're enormous. So what my hope is, there's no alternative. So we're up against the wall in the U.S., and I wouldn't bet against it. I wouldn't bet against the U.S. It's just a problem to be solved. I believe it's tractable, but the thing that's driving it is there's honestly no other options.
Felix, why do you think that China has been so successful recently, and what are some of the decisions that Unitree has made specifically that you think has put Unitree in a good competitive position?
Good question. And China had a very strong supply chain, so Unitree is very lucky in China. And we entered the human robot in 2023, and we enrich our product line and also give the customer more choice. And now Unitree product cover humanoid robot and quadruped robot, and also robotic arms and some lidars and something. Another strength of our company is, and we focus from the beginning to now. We focus on the hardware, and recently we also developed the software. We want the software more strong to equip with my robot, and we have some factory. And the first robot we developed also equipped with the self-developed model, and also the lithium battery pack also developed by our company. And now we also produce the mechanic arm and the depth camera and the lidar and something. We want to make better every year.
Do you see a big market outside of Asia for Unitree? Do you believe that Unitree will be successful in the US and in Europe? Or is Asia the main market for robots over the next couple of years?
Now we have cooperated with many partners in different countries, including American, including some Japan, Korea, and the European countries, and Australia, and also Singapore, and many countries. We want to build a network with certified agents. We want our partner to serve more customers.
My next question is about how we will choose capabilities for our robot. I see two schools of thought in the humanoid community. One is that we will have general purpose robots that you can kind of ask to do pretty much anything. There are some companies that are pushing that line pretty hard, and other companies that believe we'll have more like an app store for your robot. So you get a robot and you buy apps or even pay hourly for different kinds of apps. Like you buy the humanoid, but for the humanoid to do your dishes, that's going to be $5 an hour. How do you see this? Are we going to have a general purpose robot that kind of knows how to do everything, or are we going to reinvent the App Store again for robots?
Sorry?
Will we have an AI that is a general intelligence, can do anything, or will we have an app store for robots where you have to buy specific capability for the robot? What do you think?
It's a little difficult if you want the robot to do many things. Now the robot just can focus on one thing, like some specific jobs. If you want the robot to do many jobs and like to grab something, like to change something, or like to push something, it will cover many technology. You need to let this robot to identify something and to make some decision. Yeah, this a little difficult. So we need best step by step, and yeah.
What do you think, Nick? App Store or AGI?
I think it depends on the horizon you're concerned with temporally. Clearly, the holy grail is humanoid-esque intelligent machines that have a general understanding and can create action, just like I mentioned, right? The ubiquitous manipulation of the physical world. It's just how we get there. And right now, the pressures, because a lot of the community has become venture capital backed and not government grant funded, that the VC world has shorter time horizons and a lot less tolerance for not achieving success than, say, a government grant would. So now we've got the clock. The clock is ticking on commercialization. So what Persona's view and what we've chosen to do is to compartmentalize the actions. We're not sure that the way to get the robot adopted is to shoot for the moon and have a robot be able to be installed in a place where it has a general understanding of everything it could encounter. Right now, we've been unable to illustrate too much transfer of action. Even so much so that one activity in just different lighting conditions in a slightly different context are breaking these things. So there are absolutely open challenges. So what Persona has decided to do is say, okay, we believe that the short term is probably going to look like specialized systems. Now we're going to have a common base, and we'll be able to outfit the exterior, because these robots are going to be infused into teams. We work in teams. These are going to be shoulder-to-shoulder systems. There's a lot of branding that goes into a team. There's a lot of outfitting where you want your buddy next to you, which happens to be a humanoid, to look a little bit like you do when you're wearing coveralls. So we believe that it's going to be disparate and segmented into different personas, which is what we're calling it. And our first persona we're putting out is welding, and then obviously there's a million subsets that trickle down from that. But we're trying to narrow the problem down. I feel like if we try to solve too grand of a vision, that we're going to be diffused too much. Because at the end of the day, it's I need this activity done, and there's a subset of activities that are closely related, and the promise is humanoids are not. They're not overfit machines, right? They're not task optimal, they're set optimal. So if you have a set of activities under a framework of, let's say, welding or assembling or something of that nature, I believe that that's going to be the winning strategy. If we go off and try to create the do-all, be-all, everything robot, I think that's going to be a while, and it's going to be tough. But back to finish up, if I may, with the App Store, I do think you are touching on something exceptionally important, though. I think we make a mistake talking about humanoids as robots too much. We're building platforms, and this is going to create an ecosystem. Platforms are typically a four-sided ecosystem, and that's what I think is going to drive so much of not only the TAM, but the interest and all the other spin-out companies. I mean, just look at, people are probably tired of talking about the iPhone, but let's look at some numbers. In 2007, there were 5 major phone providers. right? You had LG, Samsung, Sony Ericsson, Motorola, and I can't remember the fifth one. They had 92% of the market share. Apple had 0. The iPhone had 0% market share in 2007. It had 4% of the desktop OS market share. Apple was a struggling company in 2007. And in 8 quick years, those 5 companies went from 92% market share to it flipped to Apple had 90% market share. And only one of the companies that had, one of those 5 companies was not losing money. What did Apple do? Apple put out a platform. They didn't put out a phone. They put out a platform. They knew they couldn't compete in the phone business, in my opinion. I'm not speaking for Apple, obviously. But they put out a platform. So humanoids are absolutely going to be a platform. They're going to generate an enormous ecosystem around them. And so one day when they are in the home and you want to DJ for your party, you might download the Spotify app and have your humanoid DJ a party, right? So in my view, this is where it's going to trend. And one of the ways that this is going to speed up the adoption is when you get third-party groups start developing applications for the robots. I think the business model is also open on how are we selling the platform? Is it a service? You know, we're still working through these issues on how customers are going to take it. Once those become solidified, then you'll have the whole environment generate the commercial elements around it. And I think one of those is probably going to be a humanoid app store, for sure.
A third path into the future of humanoids that some have espoused is that the main purpose of a humanoid is actually remote work, teleoperation. That the promise of humanoids is that you can have cheaper labor because you could hire someone in a cheaper market like the Philippines, for example, to do work here in Singapore embodying a humanoid robot. How do you see about teleoperation? Is teleoperation a temporary stopgap for humanoids, or do you think teleoperation is a big part of the future of humanoids?
I think teleoperation is also the important part of if you want the human robot to replace people, to do some difficult jobs. Maybe you in Philippines or in Thailand, maybe you want to do some jobs in America or USA or Japan or something. But I said before, and we also want to train a model. And if this model equipped with the robot, and the robot can make the decision independently and don't need to teleoperation, this will be easy for in the future.
What do you think, Nick? Is teleoperation a stopgap or a permanent fixture?
Well, teleoperation is all we've had for a long time. And again, the 25 years I've been in the humanoid business, the lion's share of it has been methods of teleoperation. We were discussing avatars. Then when we flew Robonaut 2 to the space station, it was a teleoperated platform. But then as the time delay increased, we had to embed more and more intelligence into the machine because there's a 3-second time delay from the ground to the space station. So you couldn't do teleoperation. Lots of studies say that as you go toward about a 600 millisecond time delay in your teleoperation, that your task space narrows considerably because your fine control becomes complicated. So then you start having to put, you have to start putting things in place that allow you to teleoperate, but now you're abstracted slightly away, and now you're more supervising the system. And now with where we're heading in today's modern landscape of AI, it's all right. Well, we can just remove the teleoperation component, and now we're talking about how we manage the system. So I think there are probably activities where teleoperation could make sense, but not for a broad adoption of a humanoid. I think the correspondency could be a topic we could get into. So general teleoperation is 1-to-1, right? One human operator for one robot. As the correspondency increases and you have one operator for 5, 10, 100, 500, right? But now you're acting as a supervisor. So you still have to have a significant degree of intelligence embedded locally at the machine. It has to be able to make decisions on its own. It has to handle the real-time dynamics. And so now teleoperation is not even a word that you would use to describe that. We've looked at telesurgery. We've looked at things, not at Persona, but at NASA. And so The folks I used to work with have studied this pretty substantially, and I do not believe, and again, my opinion, is that teleoperation is a long-term viable solution for any mass adoption of a humanoid platform. Now, teleoperation is going to be useful in training, but again, that doesn't scale either. So that's another open issue is how you derive the learning required and how it gets transferred out to the platform. Right now, we're demonstrating it, right? We're doing human behavior cloning or demonstration learning, whatever the moniker is these days. But that's not going to scale to 1,000 robots. I mean, one thing you can say pretty safely is we don't have a humanoid company out today that has 1,000 robots deployed in a factory somewhere where 500 of them are in a revenue-generating capacity. The field is still extremely nascent. There are some excellent demonstrations out there that show a lot of the possibilities. But it remains to be seen where each of these pinpointed technologies like teleoperation are going to assist in how these machines get adopted.
One of the things that scares me personally a lot about this near future with robots is something that Elon Musk of Tesla said about a year ago. He went on Lex Friedman's podcast, and he was asked, what will it take to win the AI race? And he said, you need two things. You need the best compute, which is why he's building his big data center in Houston. And also you need access to the best data. And he said on this podcast that, we've already scraped all of the internet, we consumed that, that wasn't enough to make good robots. But, he said, Optimus will be the greatest source of data in the world. This is something that scares me personally a lot. We've never had mobile sensor platforms like this before. Like Mark Zuckerberg knows everything I post online, but he's never had the ability to go check what's in my wife's bedroom drawer. How will we learn as a culture to trust these robots, or will it just come down to consumer discretion, like who we choose to trust to invite these robots into our home? How does Unitree think about data collection from robots out in the wild? Is this something that Unitree wants to do, like Tesla is doing, or do you believe that the privacy of the user needs to be protected?
Unitree is different with Tesla, and we now just focus on the hardware, and although we developing some basic software, we just want to focus on hardware. Yeah.
How about you, Nick?
Looks like we're running out of time. So that's one of the reasons I think the home is going to be challenging. But let's not kid ourselves. We're putting devices everywhere right now that are collecting probably more data than we're comfortable with. We just don't know it. So let's be a little open to where we draw the line on, okay, well, now this is what we're not going to accept. That said, I think you're going to have an easier time with data in an industrial context, which is going to help drive, again, I sound like a broken record, but obsessively commercial adoption. That's all I'm concerned about, is how do I put robots in the field and how do I make money with them? So being able to bound the problem where I'm working directly with a corporation to understand data management and how we're going to use that data to train the robots and custody and all that stuff, that's how we're choosing to solve it. As it scales broadly, as robots get out and among us, and let's not forget, we already have that. So how much data do you think self-driving cars are collecting, or just cars in general with cameras all over them? They're collecting, again, more data than you're probably comfortable with. So now it's not in your wife's drawer, as you alluded to. That is a separate challenge, but it's one that's a ways off, but it's one that has to be confronted.
We are running out of time. To wrap this up a little bit, one thing that really resonated with me on this panel is the idea that we don't necessarily have to think about humanoids taking our jobs. There are so many vacancies, so many things that we as a civilization want to get done that isn't getting done today. The future of humanoids is very exciting. There's a lot of work left to do, both on the hardware and the software and the culture of these get adopted. Please follow the work of Unitree and Persona, and please join me in thanking them for their time.